bring you back from that. I want a show of hands, be honest. When I said, could you stand up and introduce yourself, who was like, I'd really rather not? Thank you for your honesty up there. Some of you are probably like, can we just do the dance? That'd be great. That. Listen, what you just did, I believe, is one of the great things you can do to deal with this issue of bullying, which is to get to know other parents. Specifically, the parents of the kids that your kids hang out with. And how much do you do that? How often do you do that? You know, when new kids are introduced into my kids' lives, I try to bring them over. You know, we come over, we have dinner together, and they leave. I close the door, and I'm like, you will never play with that kid ever again. Yeah, I mean, it could be just that. It could be just that, you know, the parents are so woo that you're not going to, you know, that I say that funny, but more times than not, why do I do that? Because I want to have advocates of other parents. I want to have them on my side, right? I want to have a friendship with parents so that when something happens between our kids, that I can call them up, and instead of having the defensive posture, I have parents that are willing to deal with issues, and we're honest, and we have this relationship. Happens with Peyton all the time. Peyton's a buddy of my son's, Ben. I will introduce Ben here in a second. Peyton's 12. They can sometimes get in a fight or whatnot, and I've called Chris, Peyton's dad, and said, hey, Ben has a black eye. I think your son hit him. He's like, dude, okay, I'm taking care of it. Hangs up, you know, and takes care of it. And if he doesn't have, if I don't have a relationship with parents, right away it's like, well, how do you know? Well, how do you know it was him? And we have this defensive posture. So one of the great things we can do as parents is simply invite other parents over and get to know them. You know, make some extra spaghetti, have them over, get to know people, right? Tonight I'm filming this, so if I talk too fast, which I will, it will be on videotape. I only have like a 6-foot leeway here, so I won't move much. But if you would like a copy, we can certainly get that to you at some point. I also have a PowerPoint going on with this. There's a lot of information I'm going to throw up here at you, and if you want that, I can get it into the hands of someone that we can make sure that you get part of that too. I'm going to go through a bunch of things. 3 things I want to do tonight. I want to look quickly right off the bat at bullying itself and what you can do. I'm not going to hang out there very much because we can get caught in the weeds and we can talk about situations ad nauseum over and over again. I want to give you my plan for how I deal with bullying with my kids because every school has a plan in place. I want to give you what you can do as a parent because tonight is about us as parents. It's not about the teachers or the administrators. I dealt with them this morning. It's not about your kids. I talked to them this morning. I didn't talk to you about them. But tonight's about us as parents. And so I guess before I go any further, hats off to you for being here. And I mean that. We have, 40 of us here? There's hundreds of parents in this school. 40 have shown up. And listen, it's not lost on me that if you're here, you're likely the ones that don't need to be. So I appreciate that you're here, that you're willing to come and learn just a few tidbits. And if you can walk away with a couple gold nuggets that you can take back into your parenting arsenal and be better equipped, then I think my job is worthy of being here. So that's really what I want to get from you. But I truly mean that when I say thank you for coming. There's a million things you can do tonight, and you chose to be here, so thanks for that. So we're going to look at bullying. We're then going to look at technology. I told students today, and I'll tell you, technology is the very epicenter of bullying. I think that's where the very center of it all revolves around. And then lastly, I want to give you some challenges that you can do as parents. So why am I up here? Why this guy? Well, I began my career in a little town called Haleiwa. It's on the north shore of a little island called Oahu. You ever heard of it? And this is my backyard. Anybody jealous? Yeah, I am too. Why did I leave, right? So that's where I began my start 7th grade on the island of Oahu, teaching 7th grade students. And back when I taught at that school, it's not that way anymore, but they did not have to wear shoes to school, so kids came in bare feet. And I had an open-air classroom, so ducks and chickens walked through my class as I was teaching. Fairly unique experience. From then, I went to Pennsylvania. I was actually a youth pastor in 2 different churches over the course of 8 years. So I often tell people I saw the underbelly of student life. I saw the unplanned pregnancies. I saw the attempted suicides. I saw the divorces. I saw a lot of the in-the-gutter kind of stuff that kids are going through. And then for the last 12 years, I've been speaking. I go all around the world, try to stay in the States, try to stay regional. But probably 80% of what I've been doing the last 4 or 5 years is in regard to bullying prevention as it relates to teachers, parents, and students. But maybe more than anything else, my credibility might lie, just so you know that I'm with you here, with these folks right here. It's not a Walmart picture. They're my actual 5 kids. Yeah, you're probably counting. You're like, what? How many? Yeah, 5 kids, ranging from 14, Julianne's 14, to my Olivia, who did not want her picture taken, 2-year-old, right there. And so what I say that and I show that to you just so you know I'm right there with you. I'm a parent with you. I'm in the trenches. I'm here. So it's not a bachelor up on stage trying to say, you should do this, you should do this. So listen, if you feel convicted or you feel a little bit uncomfortable with some of the things that I say tonight, realize I'm saying them to myself, because I say them to me all the time when I'm up here on stage. And I really believe that this is important information for us as parents to get. But I'm right there with you. This is not easy stuff. Things don't get solved overnight with these issues. But I believe as parents, we can do some things practically to make a difference. So we are going to go fast. This is usually an hour seminar. I've got till 7:15. So if I go too fast, I apologize up front. I want to begin with this. What is bullying and what isn't it? Well, what is bullying? I give the definitions to students. I'll give it to you. It's repeated acts or gestures done on purpose over and over again by a student or group of students against another student with the intention of harassing, ridiculing, causing harm, or causing fear. Bullying is a real issue, and we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about it. But I have to pause to let us know what it isn't. A lot of things that happen to your children and mine is not bullying. It's conflict. And there's a difference between bullying and conflict. Whenever you have a lot of shoulders rubbing up against each other throughout the day, there's going to be conflict. Where there's people, there's conflict. And so we need to be, as parents, wise to the fact that not everything is an issue of bullying. In Massachusetts, there's a zero tolerance with bullying. Sounds really good, right? If we lived in the ideal world, but we don't. And so everything that happens in Massachusetts schools is bullying. So they pull out the purple sheet, they write the whole form up, and they have stacks of purple paper everywhere throughout the districts up there in Massachusetts. And everybody feels like they're no further ahead than they were 2 years ago when they instituted the policy. Why? Because everything is bullying now. And we have cheapened the word. We have really diminished the meaning by saying everything is bullying. When the truth is, a lot of things that happen between your kids and my kids is an issue of conflict. We don't have time to go into conflict resolution, but I do believe as parents, we need to realize that there is a clear difference. And I was an educator before, so I can say this with credibility. I do not really care for the parents that come in the school, walk Johnny into the office and say, Johnny would never do that. My kids are beautiful. I mean, they're more beautiful than yours. But all 5 of these, they are capable of anything. You know what I mean? I mean, doesn't she look gorgeous? She is just trouble. She can do anything. Ben, when he was 8, 4 years ago, because he did not want to go to school, he tried to burn my house down with me in it. So kids are capable of anything. So as beautiful as they might take a picture, I realize that sometimes what they're involved in is conflict. And I got to be wise as a parent, as the adult in the room, to understand that difference. So, what should you do if your child's bullied? 4 things really quickly, but I want to give you what I do when my child comes home and says, hey, I was bullied. First of all, I need to ask questions. I need to prod and get to the bottom of it. Now listen, I will not ask questions if there's visible physical harm. If Julianne comes home from school with a black eye, I'm not going to ask questions. We're going back to school and I'm saying, dude, I didn't send her with a black eye. What's going on, right? There is no time for questions. And also, if they say that they're going to hurt someone else or themselves, then it's not time for asking questions. It's time for action. But a lot of the time when our kids come to us or they say they've been bullied, we need to ask questions. You might say, what kind of questions? How about these? What happened? Who did it? Did you tell anybody? What did you do? Who saw it? really good questions that get to the truth of it. Because here's the thing. Our kids can get on the bus after a day, and that story can balloon. By the time they get dropped off at your house, the story has grown ninefold. Dinosaurs were involved, and machetes, right? I mean, just everything got big. And so we need to, as parents, ask really good questions. What happened? Get to the bottom of whatever. And it's not because kids purposely want to lie. It's just that's what kids are like. And so as parents, we need to make sure that we do not take everything as gospel truth, but that we get to what really the truth was by asking good questions. After that, I believe in empowering our children to do the right thing. I'm not an advocate. I'm not one of those people that believe that my school that I send my kids to, the church or synagogue that I send my kids to, should be the ones that raise them. I don't believe that. I brought them into the world. I believe I'm the first line of defense. And I want to be the one, above everybody else, that empowers my kid to do the right thing. Does not mean I don't want to look at the church or look at the school for help, but they're a supplement to my training and my equipping. I believe my job as a parent is to empower my kids to know what to do the next time this happens. And so you might say, how do we do that? Well, share your wisdom. Raise your hand if you've ever been bullied. You were bullied as a kid. Anybody? Bullied? Look at that, like most of us, right? Mine took place, I was in second grade. I remember it was a sunny day out at the flagpole. I got no further than the flagpole. Keith tapped me on the shoulder. He said, hey, do you want to fight? After weeks of bullying me, I turned around, and he clocked me upside the head, and there we are, sprawled out on the ground fighting, and that's what I remember the culmination of my bullying incident with Keith. We all have stories, and if you have a story, you have wisdom. You've been there as a parent. You know how it feels. You probably know both sides of it. You probably know what it feels to be a victim, and you probably did a little bit yourself at some point along the way, and so you know how both of those plays feel, and I think we need to make sure that we are sharing our wisdom, our experience. What else can you do? Role play. If you have 18 kids like I do, it's easy, right? So you can role play, but I can bring my kids. Ben's like, oh, I got this happened to me. I'm like, okay, all right, get up there, grab a sister. Okay, so show this. What happened? Okay, you did this, and they did. Okay, this you said that. Ooh, that probably wasn't a good thing. And they could be crying at the beginning because they felt so horrible about what happened. By the end of a role play, they're laughing because they got to act the whole thing out. We got to see it, and then afterwards, I can say, why don't you try this? Hey, next time, maybe you could do this. If that's really what you said, probably not a great thing to say. How about if you do this? And see, that's where I believe parents are missing out. We get so angry, we're so busy, we have so much going on that what do we want to do? We just want to go to somewhere else and have somebody else fix it. Parenting is tough. It's hard. It takes time. It takes energy. You come home after a long day's work, you make dinner, the last thing you want to do is spend another hour dealing with issues. And yet, if we want to be great parents, which I think we all do because we're here, then it requires us to invest in them. After I empower, with kindness, I seek help from the school. With kindness, right? That's the key. You come and I can tell you what, and this is a great school. I've been to a lot of good ones this year. Been fortunate. Not always the case every year, but this is a school, very good one. I can just tell. I mean, I don't need it proven to me. I can pretty much get a taste of it when I'm here for one day. I can get a pretty good feel for it. And these schools, like many that I've been to this year, if you with kindness go to them and say, hey, I need your help, because listen, I've asked questions about what happened. I've tried to empower my kid. This is what I've done. This is what I've said. Now I need some of your help. They will bend over backwards. There isn't a school that would not. If we were doing that and then came to help for that, they would probably give you balloons and flowers and love to help you out. Because I can guarantee you this, if we come to a school or to a teacher, to an administrator and say, hey, what happened to Timmy when he was here? They're probably thinking, I didn't even know your son's name was Timmy. Right? Because there's hundreds of kids here. They don't know everything. And so there is just as a disadvantage as you are. And so if you come as a friend, with kindness, you're going to have advocates that want to help you out. After that, what happens is we often forget to do this, evaluate. If this isn't working, let's try this. Okay, that wasn't a good plan. Let's look at this. And I think sometimes we miss that last step, evaluating what our plan is, what we're going to do forward, and if it's working or if it isn't. That's my plan. That's how I deal with it as a parent. Every school has their policy, but that's how I handle it. Anybody think it's getting worse? Raise your hand if you think bullying's getting worse. Anybody think it's worse? Well, okay. Different everywhere I go. If you do think it's getting worse, I want to share with you 3 reasons why I think it might be getting worse. You can agree or not. Afterwards, you can come up and throw tomatoes at me if you want, but media madness. I think that's one of the reasons. Media madness. I asked today, I think it was just a high school, I said, who in here has a TV in your room? I think about 80% of hands went up. 80%? Maybe 90%? And see, my issue with that is, if your house is like mine, your child's room probably has a door. The door probably has a lock, which means it's probably locked sometimes. And if you have 380 bazillion channels, they've probably checked a bunch out. Just a month ago, I didn't check this last week. Usually I do it every couple weeks, but I didn't. A month ago, looked at TV Guide. You know what the top-rated show was a month ago? Across all age brackets. Anybody want to take a guess? Top-rated show. Modern Family? No, it was in the top 10. What's that? Duck Dynasty? No, because not on a major channel. That's why it's not good. I'll let the suspense go. You will be amazed. A month ago, the top-rated show across all age brackets, Bachelorette. Bachelorette. Do you want your 14-year-old boy watching Bachelorette? In fact, I went through the top 100 shows. I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch NFL. I watch football. That's what I watch. I don't really watch a whole lot, so maybe it's not fair for me. But I didn't see a whole lot of shows on there I thought would be okay for my kids to watch. 2.5 Men, I think, was number 15. Have you ever seen an episode of 2.5 Men? You comfortable with showing your kids that? In fact, it was 98. The 98th show there was, I thought, maybe was okay to watch. And I haven't watched it. Somebody said, no, it's probably not that good as much. But it was the Dr. Oz show. It was number 98. I was thinking, maybe that's a possible show for my kids to watch. But listen, what I'm saying is, there's a lot of junk out there. There is a lot of stuff. And if you are just giving media over to our kids, I think it's a bit naive. Because the old adage, I believe, is true. Garbage in, what? Yeah, you know how it works. You ever been to a movie? You ever watch like a thriller-type action movie? We'll go old school, like Die Hard. You right? You've seen Die Hard, right? Now, stay with me. Is it just me, or you're done watching Die Hard, you come out, and just for a brief second, you open up the doors of the movie theater, you come out, you're like, I can conquer the world. Give me a Humvee, I'll run over all these cars. I mean, you feel for a brief second like you're Bruce Willis, that you could actually do what you just saw him do. Can you imagine our kids getting steady doses of whatever kind of media they are into day after day, week after week, month after month, and do we think that that cannot make a difference? Absolutely. Guy a couple months ago, I remember the guy that shot up the Naval Yard in Washington, D.C., killed, I don't know, a dozen maybe, something like that. Came out after they did research on him, that he was obsessed with violent video games, which is probably why he was on a lurch taking target practice like a sniper over top the cafeteria. Do you think that had anything to do with it? I do. I think we need to be very careful with what our kids are taking in. Listen, you're going to hear me as I go through, you're going to be like, wow, this guy's a nut. I believe my job as a parent is twofold. Provide for my kids and protect. Because there's so much out there that they're not able to decipher what's good, what's bad, what's in, what's out. I got to make sure I do that. Another reason why I think it might be getting worse, internet and cell phones. Seniors that graduated from Central Noble last year, check this out, they are the first graduating class that was born after the internet. Birth date of the internet was October of 1995. It's the birth date of it, when it became mainstream. So now we have a full-fledged student body from K through 12, from zero to grade 12, that has no recollection of what life was like before the internet. So you say typewriter, and they're like, yeah, I think I've seen that somewhere before. You say car catalog, they're like, what's that? I don't know, right? So their idea, they do not know what life is like before the internet. And they were born with this. This is how they tick. The internet is part and parcel of their fabric, and everyone has a cell phone. Almost everyone has a cell phone. I asked your kids today, from middle school to high school. I probably should have asked who didn't. Everybody has one. Is that a wise choice? I don't know. I'll tell you what I think. You can go home and you can talk to your spouse later and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. But I think you're bordering on stupid if your kids have one. Why? Because that device is down there, that phone right there, the smartphone that most of them have, let's be honest, that thing that they have, that thing holds all the information on planet Earth. Used to be when you and I were growing up, you walk into the grocery store of information, and there would be shelves. You remember? And you had to be a certain age to access certain pieces of information. And now, you walk into that same grocery store, there are no shelves. The information is all on the floor. It doesn't matter how old, how young you are, you have access to all of it. Giving a smartphone to my 13, 14-year-old boy, I'm not going to do it. You might say, well, you just don't trust him. You're right. But I also don't trust the culture and what he can stumble upon even innocently. Why else? Parenting models. Woo. Anybody ever been to Walmart? You get an education at Walmart. Listen, I'm not down in Walmart. I go to Walmart like 3 times a week, so I am one of them, right? But if you stand at Walmart, you can see like all of America coming through, right? Have you ever seen that mother at Walmart? You know the one I'm talking about? Have you ever seen that one? The mom who is with little Johnny. Johnny's like 3, and he takes off down the aisle. And what does said mom do? You ever seen this? She's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Raise your hand if you've seen that mom. Seen that mom? I feel like going up to that mom and saying, did you know that you could actually get Johnny to come to you if you said, Johnny, come here? Instead of counting to 10 and hoping they come at 11 and a half. Hey, if you want to count to 10 for the rest of your life, that's okay. But you actually have control as a parent to train your child the way you want them to develop. And you can actually get your child to come to you when you say, Ben, come here. If you want. And it's not too late. Your kids are still moldable. My kids have learned this. It's called first-time obedience. There is no second chance. I tell you to do it, you do it. You don't, there's a consequence. Ben knows that if the basement is a mess or if the lights are on when we go to bed, he's going to clean the whole entire basement. It happened right before I came here. We were going up. We were sitting by the fire. Going up, he's trying to sneak upstairs. I opened the basement door. I was like, dude, the lights are on. I was like, oh, I'm going to bed. He comes walking back down, takes the vacuum cleaner, the dust. He spent the next hour cleaning the basement because he knows that if he does not do this, this happens. And you have control. As a parent, you can set those boundaries. You can determine what you think is acceptable for your child to do, and if they don't meet it, you can have that consequence. You can choose to have your child come to you when you count to 10, or you can have them come when you say their name. It's up to us as parents, how we train. I want to move on to technology. Why does knowing technology matter? Second part of what I have is 15 minutes. Technology is important. I want to go through these numbers really quick. There's a lot. Again, this stuff can be handed to you, sent to you for sure. 12% of sites are adult content. We have kids in the room. I won't go into that, but you know what I'm talking about. 34% have an unwanted exposure to adult content. A third. 7 hours. The amount of screen time an average teen has per day. Per day. It means they are in front of a glass screen 7 hours a day. That's between schoolwork and, here it's iPadville, right? So they're in front of screens a lot during the day. Then they get on the bus and they pull out that phone, right? Whoop, and then they're on that for who knows how long. That's a lot of time in front of a screen. You know what? What is it? Center for Pediatrics has said that your kids should be, up to the age of 18, should be limited to 2 hours a day screen time. The research is finally catching up that it's terrible in the eyes. It depresses you. There's all kinds of reasons why. But we have kids that are averaging 7. They say it should be 2. What about this? 15 minutes. 40% of children under the age of 2 spend 15 minutes a day on a device. We're talking about kids that cannot even read or talk on a device. Pretty amazing. 10 and 2, the hours of which cyberbullying occurs more than any other time during the day. So that's on your watch when cyberbullying is happening. From 10 p.m. at night till 2 a.m. in the morning, that's when it ramps up. Used to be our kids could go home and there was a respite. There was safety there. Now they go home and it just ramps up. It gets worse. It's between the hours of 10 and 2. So be mindful, parents. When you walk in your kid's room and they look all cozy in there and you think they're beautiful and you're like, good night, sweetheart, love you. And you close the door, then out from underneath your pillow comes a little device and they go to town. 2.7 million students are bullied every year by 2.1 million. 160,000 students do not go to school every day because of their fear of being bullied. That's a lot of kids. Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts play, I think it's 70,000, something like that. So fill up Lucas Oil Stadium twice in the parking lot, and you have the amount of kids that do not go to school every day because of their fear of being bullied. 80% have been cyberbullied, 10% in the last 30 days. A couple more. 20 words. The average teen texts 20 words a minute. That's across her entire life right now. That's including sleep time. Including sleep time, the average teen texts 20 words per minute. 28% those who have considered suicide because of cyberbullying. I'm not making it up. I just find anything you can on Google, and I look at it, and I find the research is there. And my question, I guess, for all of us is, what are you doing to know about your child's social media behavior? What do you know about what they're doing online? Do you have any idea? Do you have any rules? I have some rules. If you don't have any rules, write these down. These are my rules. Sometimes I would call Julianne. Julianne's my oldest. She's had a voice lesson. I don't have my phone cording. But I would call her sometimes and say, hey, honey, I'm in a parent meeting. Tell me what our first rule is when it comes to technology in the house. And she would probably say it just like this, with the attitude. It's mine, it's yours, it's a privilege. Might say, what does that mean? Anything technology-wise that my kids have, anything, it's mine. I don't care if grandma bought it for them for Christmas, it's mine. I don't care if they worked and mowed 27 yards every week over the summer to buy that device, it's mine. And if they drop it, it's theirs. Absolutely theirs. I mean, screen busts, they lose it, it's theirs, and it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege to have what they have. I have a story, but I don't have time to share it. You need to show this to your kids. I've taken my kids to my oldest to the Dominican Republic, shown them the poorest of the poor. You do not think that impacts them to realize that they have more than enough? You might say, well, I'm not going to take my kids to the Dominican Republic. Well, no, but you can probably find a town not too far from your house and go serve in a soup kitchen and hand out dinner to some folks. There's people that don't live very far from you that have very little. And that can make kids see something that words can't begin to teach. A couple more rules I have. Parental restrictions are set on everything. I can get in anybody's device at home. Listen, I want to protect my kid. There's a lot of bullying that comes in that you do not notice if you do not have access to their devices. There is stuff out there. If you don't know how to enter into it, your kids are bombarded with stuff. I stop stuff from time to time. I did an experiment 3 months ago. Mandy Perry is her name. Mandy Perry. Beautiful girl. She got a Facebook page. She went to classmates.com. She filled out the school that she graduated from and the year she graduated, and then just kind of said, hey, I graduated from this school. That happened 3 months ago. Mandy Perry has, as of 2 days ago, she has 243 friends on Facebook. You might say, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is Mandy Perry does not exist. Mandy Perry is me. I created her. And Mandy Perry has 243 people that are her friends. If that's not shocking to you, it's alarming to me. And I want to know where my kids are at. I want to know what they're into. I want to be there to safeguard what is out there, because technology comes so fast. If you're not investing in understanding what is out there, it is going to not only feel overwhelming for you, it's going to swallow your kids up. A couple more rules. Nothing's purchased without me purchasing it. Nothing. Movie, app, anything that goes through me. Because it's too easy. If you don't know, the other couple months ago, they wanted to watch a movie. They didn't really, they weren't agreeing, so I put my foot down. I was like, listen, we're going to get a movie I want. We're going to get E.T. They were like, oh, that's a movie when you grew up. I was like, we're getting E.T. Went to the store, got E.T., put it in. Did you realize that E.T., about halfway through, there's about a 90-second part in the kitchen? They had this they swear about 15 times. I could not find the stop button fast enough before my kids found out like 6 new curse words. E.T. 1983 E.T. Never mind what's out there right now. I'm not comfortable as a parent to give my kids over to the culture. I'm not going to do it. And so I want to be doing the best I can to deal with it. This is where they live. They live online. So I need to be there to ensure that they don't get swallowed up by it. What else? Safari off, safeguard on. I'll tell you what that means here in a minute. Last, technology doesn't leave the house. Doesn't leave the house. You might say, what do you mean? Doesn't leave the house. They don't go to school with it. They don't. We go to grandma's house. Grandma's house is 4.2 miles from our house. They don't take their phone, because what happens if they did? They took their iPod with them. My 2 oldest have an iPod. They took the iPod to grandma's house. What do you think they're going to do? Stare at the iPod. No, we're going to go to grandma's house. We're going to have dinner with grandma. We're actually going to have a conversation with grandma while we have dinner. My goal over summer was to get my kids completely bored. That was my goal. It was achieved 3 days into it. Went out to the garage, put the trash out there. My 10-year-old Ashlyn, she's walking around one of our vehicles. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm bored. I kind of chuckled. I went into my office, front of the house. About a half hour later, I looked out the window. She's across the street playing with her little posse in the neighborhood, doing something with rocks, creating some kind of game. And I thought, you know what? She had to use her head. She had to use creativity. They actually had to do something that required some thought. You and I, when we grew up, I don't know how you grew up, but when I grew up, man, I could not wait till the sun came up, because that's when I could get my bike and off I went. And I only had to come back when the street lights were on. That was the rule. Now, we got to push our kids outside. We got to force them to go out. It's completely reversed. All right. I'm going to go through a bunch of things that you need to be aware of. Again, you're not going to be aware of this all down, but you can certainly have access to it if you would like. Apps that you need to know. I'm talking about apps because that is where technology is. It's on a mobile device. And if you're not there yet, you're kicking and screaming toward it because it's coming. And if you have a flip phone, eventually they're not going to make them anymore. And you're going to have to go into that world, and you need to be aware, because this is where our kids are. You need to have this app. This is called Safeguard. Your browser on any mobile device is Safari. You can get anything in Safari. I would say disable it, put Safeguard on there. Remember McGruff the crime dog? Remember him back in the day? This is their work. McGruff, Safeguard. Safeguard is an explorer. It's an internet browser, but it's safeguarded, and so they can't get access to stuff that you don't want them to. The bonus with this program is at the end of the day, if you want it that much, they will send you an automated email to let you know the websites that your child went to and the ones that they wanted to go to but were blocked. That's worth the price of the app. Raise your hand if you have a child that drives. Anybody have a child that drives? Oh, yeah, I get this one. Parental car control. Parental car control, put it on their device, put it on your device, their device. They say that they're going to go to the movies, but they actually go to Johnny's house. You can check on parental car control and see where they actually went. And as a bonus, if they actually went the speed limit. Whoa. It's good. Like that? Some kids are looking at me like, I cannot believe you were revealing all this information. TinyTube. Don't let the little handprints fool you. This is TinyTube. This is YouTube just filtered. Filtered. So, YouTube and Facebook, they're not filtered. You can access all kinds of junk through that. This allows you to get to access of videos without the stuff that's there. Oh, this is a good one. This one, I don't know if that's the right feature. It's called Screen Time. Screen Time. This is nice. Some of us need it on our devices. You put it on their iPod, their phone, your phone, and you say, you know what, I think they only should be able to have 30 minutes a day. At the 31st minute, the whole thing shuts off, and they cannot bring it back to life until you put in the password. Yeah? Pretty good? Got one dad going, oh yeah. Life 360, this is a good one. It lets you know where everybody in the family is at any point. If they have a device on them, which a lot of them do, you know if they actually went to school. It will actually pop up their face if you take a picture of them, and it'll say, boom, they arrived at Central Noble. Or boom, they got to the movies. So instead of even having to text you or call you, it will automatically let you know where they're at. Pretty cool app. More to it, but that's the gist. H2Be Safer, how to be safer. This is an app that whether you're using a Droid phone or an iPhone, whatever device, it lets you know that the software built in your phone can do a lot to protect yourself just with the software they provide. That helps you do it. Kids Say Zone is similar to Life 360. I haven't really looked at that much, but it's very similar. That guy's just cool. Chore Monster. Chore Monster. If your kids have chores, and since they're online, put their chores online. Using Chore Monster. Give the list. And then they can check it off when they say they're done. Ben did this the other night. All of a sudden, I got a bing on my phone, and Ben said, I swept the kitchen floor after dinner, and I'm sitting in the kitchen. I looked down. I was like, no, you didn't. Right? So that's good app to have. eBlaster and Cyber Alert, a bit of an investment for this, but this is the whole enchilada. You can put it on your computer. eBlaster is actually through your mobile device. You can put any phone number on there, and you can track the entire thing. You can see the websites they went to, who they called, who they texted, how long they were on, the whole entire deal. Listen, you've got to understand that I don't subscribe to this stuff so I can play gotcha with my kids. I'm not about playing gotcha and my kids know that I am out there and I can have access to it. But they know because I've built a relationship that I'm out there to look out for their own best interests. I want to safeguard them from all the stuff that they can get into each and every day. New forms of technology. This is not even as new as it should be. Students, if you're in the room, parents too, I want you to raise your hand if you know what these are. You got to be honest. Just by the icon, do you know what this is? Raise your hand if you know what that is. What is that, sir? What is it? Snapchat, yeah. Raise your hand if you have no idea what Snapchat is. You're like, I don't know. Snapchat is where you take your phone, you can take a picture of yourself, you can send it to somebody, and it disappears in 10 seconds. Except you and I both know it doesn't disappear. Nothing does. People believe that the creators of Snapchat are really encouraging sexting. Why? Because somebody says, well, I take a picture of myself, click, send it to my boyfriend or girlfriend, thinking it will disappear, and yet we know it doesn't. Listen, these forms of technology on their face are not evil or not bad, but can you see how they can be used for such? Raise your hand if you know what this is. Well, everybody knows what this is. Do you know what that is? I mean, it says it. Vine. If you're on Facebook, it's like every 11th feed now has this short 6-second clip. You ever seen that? That's Vine. Vine is the sister, the brother, whatever, of Twitter. It's just a short little video. It's out there. Do you know what this is? Anybody know what that is? Chirp. Chirp is interesting. You have Chirp. If everybody in this room had Chirp on their phone, and I took a picture of somebody, click, and I pressed Chirp, it would make a noise, and if your phone could hear me, it's within like a 100-foot radius, automatically you would get that picture. Interesting. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody use Feed? Anybody use Feed? Feed is where a lot of celebrities have their private collection of stuff. Their music, their stories, their videos, everything that's on there, and you can have access to it. And there's private collections, like Miley Cyrus is on Feed. If you've ever seen the video Wrecking Ball, there's an unedited version of Wrecking Ball in Feed. Can you believe it?
Gary,
Yes?
take till 7:25.
Oh, great. Thank you. Got 10 minutes. Good. I was going to beg you for it. All right, good. Thumb. Thumb. You know what thumb is? Thumb is, imagine this. Your 15-year-old daughter wakes up in the morning. She gets dressed. She takes a picture of herself. She goes downstairs, has a bowl of Fruit Loops. She goes back into Thumb. And Thumb promises that within 10 minutes, you will have 50 to 100 responses throughout the world that will say either thumbs up or thumbs down to your outfit. How about that? And this one. Anybody familiar with that? Raise your hand if you're a student here. You know that. Who uses that that's a student in here? Don't be shy. Some of you are like, I am not raising my hand. Dangerous social media. It's one of the newest ones out there. It's out of Northern Europe, so it cannot be, well, it's really tough. Schools are having trouble with this because they cannot track all the stuff because it's not American-based. It's in Northern Europe. What is Ask.fm? It's similar to Facebook, but it's anonymous. So imagine this. On Facebook, you're in Ask.fm, you can put a question. You can say, hey, what'd you think of Julie's outfit today? And you can respond and say, ooh, I thought she looked like a whore. And you do not know who said it. It's all anonymous. And so can you imagine kids that are coming into their own person, trying to figure out their identity, dealing with all kinds of anonymous thoughts and words that people are saying about them? Kids are on that, big time. Okay, I have 6 things to tell you. This is incredibly important. You might feel overwhelmed at all of it. And yet, listen, I've just invested some time to get to know what's out there and to safeguard my kids from it. But I think there's even more to it. As parents, if we want to really deal with the bullying issue, then I think we need to do 6 things. 3 things as an example. It goes above and beyond technology, but I believe that these are important for us. If we want to deal with the issue of bullying as best we can as a parent, number 1, how you doing with that? Respecting authority. So when you're in the kitchen at night, are you ripping the teacher? Cop pulls you over because you're going too fast. Kids are in that car with you. How do you respond to that cop? When you roll up the window and he goes back to write you a ticket, what are you saying underneath your breath? Do you have a child who's 10 and they're on Facebook and you've already disrespected authority because you can't be on Facebook unless you're 13? How are we doing with respecting authority? What are we doing to show our children, listen, there's an authority in your life and you need to adhere to it. All of us in here have authority. You have a boss. You have the public servants in the area. We all have authority. And how are we teaching our kids to observe it? Are we telling them that's not a big deal? Or are we ourselves respecting authority? When you are making lunch in the morning, are you uplifting your teachers or are you ripping them down? Because I can tell you this, as you respect or disrespect the authority in your life, so will your kids. Discipline. This is not a talk on discipline. It could be, but it's not. Discipline. What are you doing to discipline your kids? Is there a discipline or are we? I'm seeing more parents that are like, don't cross this line. Their kids cross it. They're like, okay, well, don't cross this line. They cross it. They're like, well, don't cross this line. I believe kids, students are crying out for boundaries. When you have boundaries, it actually shows them that you give a darn. Kids need discipline. We have far too many kids that are not disciplined, and so they come to school and they have no idea what the boundaries are. They don't know what's in, what's out, so they just kind of, woo. We need to discipline our kids. I'm not saying how you do it. I will tell you with little Abigail, who just turned 4. Well, she just turned 4. We're transitioning, but when she was 2, for sure, what's the only thing she knows? Swat on the butt. That's all she knows. I know some of you are like, oh, I can't believe you do that. That's the only thing she gets. She has no understanding otherwise. Now, with Ben, who's my 12-year-old, do you think I spank him? No, I take away his iPod for like 12 years. You know? There's different ways to discipline, but are you doing it? Are we teaching our kids that discipline exists? Because you get disciplined. I'm amazed at the amount of students that come to school late every year. Every day. A school I was at a couple weeks ago, there was an epidemic. I think they averaged like 25 kids every day that were tardy. What if you show up late to work? You think your boss is going to say, "Oh, no big deal, we'll get it next time"? No. That's not going to happen too much until they say, "You know what, I don't think you want this job. There's somebody out there that does want a job because jobs are scarce, and so move along." Right? Model forgiveness. Last thing you need to do as an example, especially men in the room. I think we need to make sure we're doing this. Modeling what it is to forgive. Not just to say, "I'm sorry." "I'm sorry" is empty. But to actually say, "Hey, would you forgive me for what I just did?" Happens with Abigail. Abigail's my just turned 4-year-old. She can drive me crazy. But there's been occasion, maybe once or twice this week, when I've lost my temper, it got a little bit too loud, and I have to find little Abigail. I got to get down on my knee. I got to look her in the eye and say, "Abigail, will you forgive Daddy for yelling at you? That was wrong." And before I can even finish the sentence, what happens? She puts her little arms around me, gives me a kiss on the neck, and all I've done is just modeled to her what you do when you are in the wrong. Instead of assuming I can't be wrong, I got to be up on this pedestal, I can never do anything wrong, and even if I do, I'm going to pretend that I don't. Your kids will learn so much, especially men, if you are willing to acknowledge when you screwed up. 3 more things, because I have 4 minutes. What should you do for your children? What can you do? This took me 12 years to figure out, but I believe it's absolutely critical for us. FaceTime. I'm not talking about on your iPhone. FaceTime. I'm talking one-on-one time with your kids. The average American parent, according to the March 13th Pew Research Survey, found that, check this out, the average American parent, you ready? From Monday through Friday, spends, on average, 36 minutes with their kids. Their kid, that's it. 36 minutes. What does that come out to? 7 minutes? 7 minutes a day? Monday through Friday? If you are averaging, you're spending 36 minutes a day with your child, I can tell you one thing, you're not raising your kid. Somebody else or something else is. A teacher, a friend, Google, something, not you. My challenge to you is this. Spend an hour a day with your kids. Hour a day. And I'm not talking in the living room on your device saying, "Isn't this fun to be around each other?" I'm talking about putting the devices down, spending an hour with your kids. Night before I came here, was that last night? Yeah, last night, before I had 3 hours of sleep and drove up here from Indianapolis, I spent 1 hour around our fire with 3 of our kids. We didn't have a device. We were just chatting. We were just stoking the fire. We were just telling stories. We just spent an hour. Some days I'll go home after a long trip and we will play a game of hide and go seek, and I have 5 kids, right? And I'll grab little Olivia, who's 2, and I'll fit into a cabinet I never thought I could. And we spend time together. Listen, FaceTime is about quantity time, not quality. I hate quality. Anybody tell you want quality time, tell them how is that going to happen. Next week at 4:30, can we spend time together and have quality time? Oh, maybe. I don't know. I might not be in a good mood. How do you get quality time? You only get quality time with people by spending quantity time with them. When you spend quantity time, you find those quality moments. You cannot orchestrate them. Secondly, couch time. If you're a single-parent household, I'll get to you in a second. I have like 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes. Couch time is this. FaceTime tells your kids that you love them. Couch time tells them something different. Here's what you need to do as a parent. If you have a spouse in the house, find a central location, get knee to knee with your spouse. Spend 15 minutes a day talking one-on-one about anything. The day, vacation you're going to take, whatever. 15 minutes, though, your kids cannot interrupt you. They cannot interrupt you. So if you have a little 2-year-old crawling up your leg, shake him off. You might say, what is that going to do? I mean, my 15-year-old, he's going to come in the kitchen, grab a soda, and leave. What's the big deal? Research says there is nothing better than sitting one-on-one, face-to-face as a couple that will build security into the life of your kid. Because if they're at school and if they get bullied or if something goes haywire, they always know that all is okay. Mom and Dad, they're all right. Everything's going to be fine. And if you're a single parent, you might be like, well, I burned that bridge a long time ago. Here's your couch time. When you're making sandwiches for the next lunch in the morning, don't badmouth your spouse. Don't treat him or her as the invisible parent. You never even mention their name because, after all, they are their father. They are their mother. Last thing is work time. Don't allow, like I did 12 years ago before I changed and shifted gears and almost lost my family. Do not allow your work to trump your family. Don't allow work to trump it. Because here's the deal. Those extra hours you put in on Saturday, that extra paper you push across that desk, that work's always going to be there. You are replaceable. You can be replaced at work. I can too. I know I'm not the only person that can be up here. I know I can be replaced, but I can tell you that Olivia, she's only going to be 2 once. Abigail's only going to be 4 once. Ashlyn's only going to be 10 one time. Ben's only 12 once. And Julianne's only going to be 14 one time. I want to be a parent when I put my head down on the pillow that I am completely exhausted, not because of work, but because I know I've put everything into being the best parent, the best father, the best role model that my kids can have. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.